This project is going to take an overview of how you can make a simple top-down character in Godot. We're going to make a simple stage, and then we're also going to make a character to move around in that stage. Let's go take a look at a sample level. Our final project will look something like this. The reason why we're going for something simple, you can even see it's jutting out, is just to learn the basics of how to add scripts to objects and also how collision basically works. If we press the arrow keys, we can see that it moves like this. And if we press WASD, we can see it doesn't move at all because it doesn't have input mapping set up. We're going to work on that when we get to our project. Here we are on a completely fresh load of Godot. As you can see, nothing is set up. In order to set stuff up, let's go over here to the left where it says our scene and we want to create a root node. We're going to make a 2D game, so let's go ahead and click 2D scene. We now have a node 2D, which should be the base of all 2D items. Let's go ahead and just call it main level, so that way we can be clear as to what it does. This is just the way I name it, but you can name it anything you want or use any naming convention. Now, if we want to play this level, we would go up here to the play button to do it. However, you notice that we've hit a you need to confirm because no scene has been saved. Do you want to save before running? We're going to do that, and we're going to save this main level as mainlevel.tscn. All your files for nodes that you custom make will be named tscn, and all files that contain scripts will be named .gd. So we're going to go ahead and hit the save button. Now, if that's out the way, it's going to load up. A quick side note I forgot that I need to point out is that we need to designate what is the main root node. In other words, what is this play button going to start up? To do that, we can go over here to the Project tab and click on Project Settings. If we go to the Run tab, we'll see this thing called Main Scene. If we pick a node, this is what will be selected as the main scene that will be loaded on pressing the play button. Right now, I already have it preset to mainlevel.tscn, but if you need to set it, go here to the file and click whatever you want. In this case, click mainlevel.tscn. Once you've done that, you can go up here to the top and click the play button or refresh button if you already have a version of it running. We're going to notice it's a gray background, and the reason why is because we haven't filled it with any children or asset nodes. Let's do that now. One of the first things that would be good to add would be a background or something to walk on. We actually don't even need to add collision for it, so let's just go ahead and get a color rectangle, like that. This is your nodes, by the way. You can search for any node name up there, and then you can find it down in the drop-down. So here's our color rectangle. We're just going to drag it out. It's just a simple background, something to denote it's supposed to be walked on. Make it black like that. And now we've got something to walk on. Just to show something right here, you'll notice there's this blue, light blue outline around the sides of the gray box. And this is our camera, or this is what's seen in the game. So notice the position of the black rectangle in that blue rectangle outline. And when we hit the play button, we'll notice it's the same thing right there. So think of that as our camera right there. Now we're going to go ahead and add a wall, and think of a wall like this. What does a wall need to do? Well, first off, it needs to be visually seen, and secondly, it needs to actually have a collision which will stop movement from going through it. So to do that, we're going to get a node 2D. You can think of this sort of as a container for 2D elements. In fact, our main root is a 2D node itself. We're going to name it wall for simplicity's sake. Now, this is something to contain our portions or what our nodes are, but it doesn't actually have anything in itself. So let's go ahead and add a static body. A static body can be thought of as a collision container that it won't move no matter what happens. This body cannot move, but it will prevent things from getting through it. And you'll need to think about this. Areas are things that can go through it, but will send off a signal when something goes through it, whereas bodies are physical things that can't go through at all. So we're going to add a collision to this. It doesn't come with its own collision. You need to add this on your own. So we're going to find a collision. Right there, we're going to get a collision shape 2D, the most standard one you can get, and we're going to go over here to the shape, over on the right. We're going to use a rectangle shaped 2D just because that is what a wall is like. And now we've got a collision. However, we want a little more than that. We're going to want a sprite. Or better yet, let's just use a color rectangle again because we don't need a sprite for right now. It might be a little too complicated. And I would like to point something out. We can notice up here how we have a tree. And this is at the top, and this is a child of that, and this is a child of that. And we can keep seeing this continual gradation of going lower and lower into what the children are. And we don't always want that. For example, let's see this wall. If we move the main wall node, we'll notice everything else moves with it. And if we move the collision shape 2D, we'll notice that the wall moves with it. I mean, we'll notice the color rectangle moves with it. But we don't want the color rectangle to be a child of the collision 2D. In order to reparent it, you simply just need to move it up and drop it on the wall. And now we can see it's a child of wall and no longer a child of collision shape 2D. Let's go ahead and work on aligning these things. And the best way to do this is actually to make our own custom node called wall, which we can do by right-clicking on wall and then clicking the save branch as a scene. So this will make it its own scene. You'll notice the TSCN just like before. We'll save it, wall.tscn, and we'll notice it's down here now. Not only will we notice that we have the TSCN down here so we can drop multiple copies of the exact same wall, but we'll also notice that all the children nodes of the wall are missing. And the reason why is because it's its own script or its own TSCN over here. So now we're going to want to align everything up. We'll notice up here is the central node of the wall. So we're going to want to pop everything up there and align it like that. Now, one thing you'll notice is that my objects are moving like this. They're getting snapped together. And the reason why is because I have this button up here clicked. This is a grid, so if we don't have that, you can move it freely. But this makes lining stuff up pretty hard. So for right now, just go to use snap, click it, and it's very easy to line stuff up. One problem you might notice is that the wall itself, you can't see the collision shape 2D on this editor. And this can be a little bit hard if you're trying to align it up. And the reason why is if we go over here to the panel over here, we'll notice static body 2D is above color rect. And with the editor, the way it works is if two different objects have the exact same Z index, then it will go by what's higher up in the tree as being further in the back and what's lower down on the tree as being closer to the front. So if we take static body 2D and drop it below color rec, we'll notice it's now seeable in front. So we can just grab those arrows, scale it out, and now we have a wall, basically. It might not look like it right now, but it's got a background that we can denote it's a wall, and it has a collision body, which will stop things from going through with it. If we go here to the main level, you're going to notice it's not updated. And the reason why is just because this is an open source engine. It's not perfect, and it is being updated frequently. Usually you just have to close out the program, but I don't feel like closing it out, so we're just going to delete those, and we're going to drop in our corrected walls. Once again, troubleshooting that other stuff is easy. Just close it out, reopen it, and it should be fixed. So now we have a couple of walls, but we notice this isn't going to cover our ground. Let's go ahead and drop these walls in. We're going to scale them. In order to scale them, there are a couple ways to do it. If you go up here, you'll notice you have 3 different move, rotate, and scale nodes, and also you have shortcut keys you can use. And then if you go over here, you'll notice you also have a transform in which you can scale it like this. Let's do this way because it's the easiest way to show you what numbers I'm using, and also it's the most precise way. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a 7, see where that gets us. It's alright. Let's go ahead and do a 20. See where that gets us. Yeah, it's pretty close. Since it's just a demo, we're not really trying to get perfect. You can use guidelines and rulers if you need to actually get it perfect, but for right now, we don't need that. Just that. Whoops, sorry, my bad. Let me That's a 1. That's going to be a 14. Also, if you notice, it's doing it by multiples of the original. I mean, pretty self-explanatory, but just something you might want to keep an eye out for, because it will stretch your texture if you have a texture on it. However, since we're using color rectangles, it's a flat color. You don't need to worry about stretching of textures at all. But just keep that in mind. You don't want to use this scale feature if you have textures at all. Now we have a walls all around it, and we'll notice it's blue because it's got the collision on top of it just so we can see it in the editor. But if we hit this play button over here, we'll notice the collision is not there at all. It's just the white walls like we programmed it. But we still don't have any character in there, and the reason why is because we haven't created a player. Let's go ahead and create a player now. Okay, save always. Make sure you save. It can crash for the most random reasons, so just hit the save all scenes whenever you can. So we're going to go over here, add a new thing, and we're going to add a kinematic body 2D. Well, remember, last time we added a static body 2D. That's a wall. It doesn't move, but it doesn't let things get through it. A kinematic body 2D is a body that can move and has physics applied to it. So, for example, let's suppose we had this and it was a circle and we dropped it on a peg. It would have some internal physics calculations on which way it would fall off of that peg. This is pretty advanced, but the kinematic body 2D gives you functions that already do that for you so that you don't have to do it on your own. And just like static body 2D, it doesn't come with its own collision. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to grab a collision shape 2D. We're going to go ahead and give it just a simple rectangle shape 2D. We're going to give this a color rec just for instead of a sprite because we don't need a sprite right now. We're keeping it very simple. We're going to do just like we did last time. Rename it player.tscn. Now we have our own scene of the player. So we're going to go ahead and open it up just like we did with the wall. Drop the collision lower in the color rectangle there, size it out, size it up, drop the player back in, save all, drop the player back in, hit the play button, and we'll notice nothing's happening when we press the keys. The reason why is because now we need to work with input mapping. So let's go ahead and do that. Go over to project settings, and you'll notice up here there's a tab called input map. Scroll to the bottom and we'll notice I already have set up, down, left, right. You'll need to do this though. So let's go ahead and delete these just so I can show you how to do it. So up here we have an action. Let's call it up. This is if we want the character to go up. You can click any key you want and make it work. So we've added the action key and we have up here. Hit this plus button over here. Then press what you want. If you want a joy button, joy axis, for example, with a remote, you can go ahead and get that. However, I have noticed when I've tried it with my own projects, some remotes don't work too well. So definitely go check out a forum if you have problems with it. We're going to go ahead and assign W to up, and then we're going to go ahead and do left, right, down. You can see they're all added down there. Once again, hit the plus button, E, not that, sorry, E, A, right, going to be D, and then we're going to head down, DS. And now we've got our input axes, and now we can feed this into the player. Do that, click on the player, and then we're going to add a script. Scripts are sort of like the brains of the nodes, if you'd like to say it. You can add a script up here by clicking on this button. And you notice the .gd. Of course, those are the scripts in Godot. Before we continue on, we're getting to around the 15-minute mark of this video, so let's go ahead and stop it here and do a quick review. Just to review, we have learned how to save any scripts or TSCNs we need to do. We've mapped the input from keyboards or controllers. We've created the visual components used for a character and also for that of a wall. And we've learned how to use collisions both of a static body and a kinematic body 2D. We've also set up the main scene which holds these walls and players. In the next video, we're going to learn how to do the script that's going to control how our player moves.